Hi everybody, here we are back at Top Construction Exterior and coming into the final phase of this. So here's a tool that I played around with. I saw that a lot of violin makers make just a chunk of wood, could just be a 2x4 with a place for a flat place for the bench and then a place to hold the pencil. But since I had this gizmo in my machine shop, it seemed like a pretty good thing to use for this. And this is just a demonstration of one way, if you care to use it, of figuring out what the topographic contours are. And so here I'll try and demonstrate this. Let's pick a height. We have our handy dandy fine adjuster over here. And then of course, since this is a mechanical pencil, we also have a way of adjusting the lead. Now of course you'll say, well, the lead wears out, but we can always, let's just start over here, making a mark. And so we can always come back here and see if it still makes a mark in the same place, which would mean it's not wearing enough to make any big difference. I'm not sure how well you can see this, but this is making little marks, and you have to be careful not to smash it. And either, well, you could dent the wood, of course, with the pencil, which isn't what you want to do. And you can also if you're not careful, distort your setting. But like I said, if we want, we can always go back and check at the beginning to make sure our setting makes sense. So this is a pretty cool way to do this, and it shows you a lot about what you've done. Here we are back at the beginning, and you can see we're good here. So it looks like to me, these look pretty good. Maybe a little bump here and a little bump over here. Otherwise looks pretty nice. I mean, this has got, some symmetry here. We go in here and play with a little scraper. Let's see what that does. Okay, so that rounded off that curve there. Anyway, I think you get the idea. It's a way to ensure symmetry, and these corrections we're making are very small at this point. And as I mentioned before, it's possible that symmetry is not what you want. I mean, there is a arching scheme that I used a long time ago, and that I first saw in a D'Angelico, where the apex of the arch is shifted over towards the treble side of the guitar pretty dramatically. And as I may have mentioned, that's something that Tom Rebecki got involved with. He felt that he got good results from that. At this point, I'm not doing that anymore. I think that it makes a more wholesome guitar to try and work with a symmetrical top. Anyway, that's kind of the way that works. You know, having said this, I've never used this before, so it's certainly not necessary, but I thought, you know, it was fun to play around with it since I do know that some people use it. All right, so we'll try another level here, and we're not going to get too involved with this, but oh. now I made a mess with my pencil, so we have to be careful. Yeah, I don't know. It's a technique that you might use. I'm not sure. Well, again, it's my first time. Maybe this would work better to angle the pencil a little bit so it doesn't have the potential to stab as much. Well, the other thing you could do, of course, would be to put an indicator, a dial indicator in here, and then just mark, you know, look for a reading, and then just mark where it was. All right, well, it's showing us a little bump here, and maybe here. We'll see if we can. Well, anyway, so there's some skill to using this, clearly. I don't have much practice with, but I like it. It's a pretty good method, actually. Anyway, so I'm glad I showed you that one. That's kind of cool. But I'm going to call this one ready for sanding, and I'm going to demonstrate that. So first, just to recap, this is a piece of Lutz spruce, which is a hybrid variety from the Pacific Northwest. And it's the first time I've used this material. I like working with it very much. It carves and scrapes beautifully. No bad habits whatsoever. And I've done my best to get it ready for a quick sanding. Remember, the plate is oversized. So some of these edge marks are they're in scrap. And also, we still have our beauty mark, just like the Mona Lisa and Billie Holiday, etc. All beautiful things come with beauty marks. Nothing wrong with those. And I think probably the next thing I can show you is how I sand this. Let me talk about this first before we get into doing it. I use this it's a dual action sander. They call them DA. And what that means is that not only does it rotate, but it also travels in little circles. And sometimes you can buy ones that travel in circles of different size, but you can get an idea of how much. It's also called random orbital because it's not driven. It's just free to zoom around as it likes. The thing that's driven is the rotation. So if you turn it on, you'll see, well, we'll show you in a second. But before that, we're going to use 320 sandpaper, which is, well, just a word about this. Maybe I've said this already, but when you sand, if you start out with a coarse paper, and then you end up going finer and finer, as we're taught to do, you are always at risk of not taking out the deep scratches made by the coarse paper. Whereas if you just start out with fine sandpaper, you never have that issue. And I think probably it's more efficient, more fun, and ultimately just better to learn how to do the woodworking so that your sanding is only a very small part of what you're doing. 4 drops of light oil. Good practice. Oil that air motor. This is, I mean, I don't mean to do a plug, but this is made by the Dynabrade company. I don't know of another one like it. And the thing that I like about it is that it's small diameter, just 3 1/2 inches diameter. So it also has a control on it here, so you can change the speed from 0 to. Now, it may seem counterintuitive, but the harder you press, the less aggressively the sandpaper will cut. And that's because you restrict its ability to orbit. So as you press down hard, you kind of shut down the secondary orbital stage, and it cuts a little bit slower. So if you wanted remove a lot of material, which we certainly do not, you would ease up on it and let it fly around, and then the grit could do a better job at getting to the wood at a higher speed, more passes over the surface per second. Okay, so I am going to need to change the lighting in here. Maybe I can try and do that right now. So now we can see with the low incidence lighting exactly what we have. And it's going to make it easier for us to do a good job. And this is the same lighting that I use for scraping. So as you can see, the surface is pretty darn good. And I'm satisfied, just kind of touching it with my hands, and we verified with a pencil that it's a nice shape and even. So I am going to put my dust mask on and sand. Okay, we can see that it's done a nice job here, and it's shown up a couple of little marks over here that I've made with a scraper. And this is a place where the top turns around a little bit, by which I mean the fibers are parallel with this surface, and which means it's hard to figure out which way to scrape it. Maybe we can do a little work on this. So as I may have mentioned, that in places like this, what you want to do is make sure you have lots of rake, and don't press too hard. If you press hard, you'll get underneath the fibers and start plucking them and ripping them out. That's definitely not what we want to do right here. Okay, so the sandpaper is not only helping fair us fair, but it's also showing us some problems that might have been a little bit harder to see. All right, so that's a bit better surface. I thought I was going to be able to coast on the air and the air compressor, but I'm afraid I'm not going to have to turn it on to finish the job. Okay. So this will point up little problems. They're easier to see now. The surface is really smooth. And we can see that there's You know, some places that haven't gotten sanded all the way. A couple of places where there's a little ridges here I've got to take care of. Don't see any damage really. And this is the beauty of using a fine grit sandpaper. You could use 220 maybe, and sand a little more material, but I prefer to go over it with a hand scraper now and take care of the little anomalies that are left to chase. And this side looks good. And the edge has some lumps in it, but the part's oversized, and a little problem here, but that's off the part as well. This is a cutaway guitar, so I think we're good. I'm going to go in there and do a little bit more scraping and sand again. Get what I want. Okay.